This is A Automotive Reviews, and what we have here is the Devel 16. Now, this is what 5,000 horsepower looks like, folks. And it looks like, to me, a catastrophic work of art. It looks like if you pull out with this, you would mean business. It looks like you could drive underneath a semi truck and just go around traffic and nobody would be able to keep up with you and your turns and your maneuverability. It looks like something out of a sci-fi movie. Now remember the Devel 16, 12.5 liter quad turbo V16, a beastly claimed 5,007 horsepower. Well, the world is still waiting to see just how real any part of the final car claims will be. Now, the Dubai-based startup has some big expectations, and the entire world wants to know how feasible this is to get that 5,007 horsepower. Assuming that they can be achieved safely, could this car be one to humiliate all the big stars such as the Koenigsegg, Bugatti Chiron, Koenigsegg Jesko, and the other hypercars? While we wait, a designer by the name of Mark Hostler has come up with a concept that brings to life the off-the-wall styling of the Devel 16. If Batman fought for evil, this would be the car that he would be driving. You expect this car to be seen on Batman as well. What a beast. I mean, if this was in front of you on a highway, you're definitely not going to see this too long. I mean, definitely, you would have to put a camera somewhere and put one right on top of here so you can see behind you at the touch of a button. And then you'd have to put, I guess these are the mirrors, the cameras for the mirrors. But imagine something like this. This is beastly. If you ever seen a prototype photos of the Devel 16, you'll notice the proportions are massive. This new design doesn't shy away from aggressive styling. It's not a normal car, and the bundles of forged carbon is offset by precious few anodized bright red accents, following the center lock wheel nuts, the fuel filter cap, in the wheel spokes. The body is finished in satin metallic black, making the car look all the more sinister rather than just a conceptual redesign. This render takes things further by adding aero fuel tank dedicated to E85 and even takes account of the engine. With this concept featuring the boost limiter to make the 16 easier to drive. Let's check out some of these photos. Look at that, even the red tire writing on there. Everything about this is just beastly. This is so sharp. Just look at that. Oof. Wow. What a beast. And the top just looks something like something futuristic. Look at that angle. This would probably make people crash their cars if they had a chance to look at this on the street. Now look at that red gas cap. That is so sharp. And look at that when you remove the top of the engine cover and the back end. Oof. One of those tires look like $2,500 each, if not $5,000, just for the rubber. What a beast. And that interior. That is sharp. What a sharp prototype design by Mark. And this is the model that you see. The Devel 16. This is in Dubai. What a nice car. spectacular. Spectacular and nice. Now, while this may just be a concept that has no real world connections to the Motors, immense detail has been employed in designing the interior too, with a futuristic steering wheel and an 11-inch touchscreen infotainment display. The design of the cabin is radical and is what you say is about its business, so the interior looks bare. But it does remind you of the possibilities for the hypercar are all but endless. It also makes us wonder when the real thing really will hit the road. Now, last year was when the world thought that you finally see a finished product, but we still have much waiting to do. With the crisis going on, upsetting much larger manufacturers, could the Devel 16 be, an end, no more? Perhaps although this render gives us fresh hope that such an ambitious dream will still come to fruition. Until then, let's go back to this Devel 16. And boy, is this a beast. Now, the quad turbo V16, Devel 16, a lot of people would look at that as a joke. Yet, it's designed by Paulo Guerrera, an engineer of the SCG-003 and the Apollo. Now, a road car that can go 320 miles per hour, a quad turbo V16 made from two LS V8s with 5,007 horsepower, and all this from a car made by a startup company from Dubai. This all sounds like a joke. Now I know vaporware we shouldn't give a second glance, perhaps, but while the Devel 16 may turn out to be a failure, it's worth noting a few key facts to help us keep it up in mind. Now, this car gets closer to 320 miles per hour, but the Bugatti Chiron got like 304. So is this achievable by a mid-level 3,000 horsepower version of the car? It probably should be, knowing that the Bugatti, I'm thinking that the Bugatti was anywhere from 15 to 1800 horses, and it got to 300. But a lot of things went into play to get the car to that speed. A lot of engineering had to take place. A lot of adjustments had to take place. But this car is even more aerodynamic than the Chiron. We'll see. There's also the fact that the American-made V16 engine is real and way more elaborate than anyone can imagine. And then there's perhaps the most important piece of the puzzle. Paulo Guerrera, the chief engineer and former head of Pininfarina one-off division, is mostly known now for designing Jim Glickenkoff's race and road cars, and more recently working on the Apollo V12, powered by basically a $2.7 million IE hypercar. Now, regarding his latest project, he said, I guess I'm starting to get a reputation among people for taking up crazy challenges. Then we had a chat. Then Word and Trek had a chat with him about some huge question marks standing new to period involved 16 show cars and a 6x6 desert monster that Devel had an idea of getting involved in. Now, when it comes to the first, the plan is to offer 16 at 3 levels. They're the entry one for $1.6 million, powered by an LS V8 turbo, that's built by Stephen Morris engines, tuned to 1,500 horsepower, and that's going to be offered $1.8 million. And then the V16 Club for 3,000 with 3,000 horsepower on tap. Now, this is a car that should easily do 320 miles per hour. And then there's a 5007 horsepower racing car, which could cost, of course, $2 million, which is a lot less than the Bugatti Chiron. It's intended for drag racing and drag racing alone, so it's not going to be taking corners. So it can't compete with the Chiron, because the Chiron can take corners at, of course, you can't take corners at 320 miles per hour. Ain't no car can take corners at that speed. But this car is drag racing, and you would put it back on the truck and take it to the drag race. You wouldn't be driving on roads, and if you were, you'd be very careful. But before all this could happen, Gorilla just wants to see a working Devel 16 prototype in 12 to 14 months. And here's what Gorilla told World Track about the latest project. When you calculate the power you need when you're below 310 miles per hour, you need 15 to 1800 horsepower. And that's basically what the Bugatti had, Chiron. But when you start to go up immediately to 27 to 3000 horsepower, you'll not go through with all the weights coming in. You got the drag coefficient being 0.3, 2.2, 2.5, and he thinks that it makes this amazing. You have the possibility of working on something that's so gargantuous. And this is just straight out crazy to make a car that goes so fast. Imagine a car with 5007 horsepower. I mean, wow. When things come to that, you got to get the suspension has to be wise, because there's huge loads at those speeds. And you have to make a well-balanced car. And the Bugatti Chiron is like that too. The one that can do 300 miles per hour was another version. I don't know if it was a pure sport, but I got to go back to that article and find out. But at those speeds, you have to control the ride height and the pitch. There's active systems for both, so the computer is going to be controlling that. And then you got the subsonic and the supersonic air. So it's going to be in many areas. You're going to have the air hitting it at certain, subsonic and supersonic speeds. And then there's problems underneath the rear of the car, vortexes that disturbs airflow. So that has to be worked out. Even at the speeds of going up 310 plus miles per hour, you have to work those things out, and that's why the Bugatti Chiron had to be a modified version in order to get to that 300. I think it was 304 miles per hour. But in this particular car, the packaging of radiators, that's critical. And you got even when you pack in 3000 horsepower, even to pack 1500, I mean, it's just amazing. Now the mechanical losses, you have to count for 500 extra horsepower just for one transmission. The V8 and the 3000 horsepower V16, they had to develop a dual clutch for that much horsepower. But that's one of the reasons why the car ain't, not out yet, because there's a lot of development going on. And if you get to 5,000 horsepower, that's straight up dragster. That's not gonna be able to take any corners. This is the Devel 16, and what an amazing car, folks. So basically, what's happening now is that they're trying to reduce drag so that they can reach the speed with 3,000 horsepower, and that's taking time. That's why the car's not out yet. But there are people out there that are willing to buy these cars, especially from the Middle East. These cars are collector cars, hopefully, but you probably won't see many here in the United States. But before the Chiron, it was Christian von Koenigsegg, the Swedish innovator, who had the fastest car. And his was doing 284.3 miles per hour. But now you got the Chiron that took that back at 304. But the Devel is aiming for something new breaking. It wants to break that barrier. hopefully 2 or 3 years from now. So we'll see. And again, this is on AO Automotive Reviews. And this right here is the car that this designer thinks, that Mark thinks that can help them meet that goal. But it's what Devel thinks, because they'd have to go and rechange some things to make this fit. This is AO Automotive Reviews. Thanks for watching. Remember, like and subscribe.
If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more interesting videos.